This, however, was the first time I remember an album dropping with a wide release to critical acclaim and severe hatred from the community. What's up, Wasabi Peas? Welcome to another episode of Guarsenio's High School CD Booklet Review, the YouTube show where I re-listen to all the albums I bought in high school and try to empathize and reconcile with 15-year-old me's embarrassing music taste. Also, before we get started, I want to remind everybody that we got a brand new show on our Patreon called Your High School CD Booklet Review. Drew and I wanted a chance to talk about more legendary albums that I wasn't cool enough to own when I was in high school, so we're doing it on Patreon. And if you're a $50 and up patron, you get to pick an album for us to listen to. And as a 30-plus-year-old member of the metal community, I can safely say there's nothing more embarrassing than admitting that you enjoy some Avenged Sevenfold. And today we're talking about their big ol' sellout album, City of Evil. I'm just gonna say this right off the bat, country. I love this album, and I think it might be the most enjoyable and easily accessible shred album of all time. I'm sorry, but it rocks. I talked about Avenged Sevenfold being my favorite band in high school in the first ever episode of the show. If you missed it, it's time to go back to the beginning, friends. What I didn't talk about is how I discovered them. I was watching the 2003 Warped Tour live DVD at a friend's house, and they came on stage dressed half rockabilly, half Trinity in the Matrix, and they were shredding Parker guitars. Do you remember those things? Apparently they were really good guitars, but they looked like Nintendo 64 controllers, and they were just all around too goofy to really catch on. Parker guitars, I am convinced, was just a weird trick to get divorced dads into cubism. But anyway, yeah, I was excited to see a Warped Tour band with epic song structures and guitar minis, so I was in. They were my band. But upon City of Evil's release, I remember that being my first experience with an album completely dividing audience opinion. Just to be clear, I'm not saying this was my first experience with a bad album. I don't think it's fair to call this album bad, and I was there for Saint Anger. No one was sticking up for it.
Black Album, Fame, Fortune, right? Saint Anger, Despair, Misery, Anger, loss of revenue. Right? Loss of revenue.
This, however, was the first time I remember an album dropping with a wide release to critical acclaim and severe hatred from the community. And at first, I wasn't into it. I was like, these vocals are weird. Where's the screaming? This songwriting is corny. But after a week, I came back to it and I was like, wait, is this the best? So to go back to the beginning a little bit, this to me is the most universally accessible and enjoyable shred album of all time because it's not about technicality first. All the sweeps and time changes and key changes are all in service of the songs. This album is just a bunch of extremely talented musicians coming together to write the most adventurous, swashbuckling, big, fun metal album that they could. And because of that, I think you get an aggressive record that can be enjoyed by the metal community and outsiders, which is good. I think that's good. Honestly, I could say a million nice things about this album. It's bad out of hell with marauder lyrics, breakdowns, flamenco guitar, and a full Danny Elfman-style orchestral bridge. Go read any big music magazine's review of it. On paper, this is a beloved album in the genre. I think the reason this album gets so much hate is because of the unique vocal performance and also because Avenged Sevenfold, the guys, are a bunch of bootlickers. Vocally, I'll give it to you. This performance is wild and he makes some truly hilarious sounds. But I don't know, y'all know that I love a weird vocal, and this dude blew his voice out right before they were gonna record this album. He then healed his voice by training with Axl Rose's vocal coach, so I guess it's no surprise that spots like the verse of Backcountry sound like dialogue from the ending of an episode of The Nanny. I'm sorry, Mr. Sheffield, I ruined Maggie's wedding. My mom started the food fight. Also, Niles might be a murderer. But tone aside, man, the melodies and harmonies on this record are inarguably amazing. Their right-wing nonsense is a harder discussion. And I guess on the show, we're finally going to talk about separating the art from the artist, I guess. I think there are many examples where that is impossible to do. And for me, it all just depends on who the artist is and what they're putting into their art. For example, I'll never be able to watch a Woody Allen movie ever again because most of those movies are him dating younger women, and that's just one of the many things that he did wrong in real life. The art itself isn't letting you separate him from it. However, I brought up the late Meatloaf earlier, and I think that's a perfect example of the other side of the coin. The dude was a far-right weirdo for sure, but I don't know, man. Bat Outta Hell was written by Todd Rundgren and Bruce Springsteen's piano player, and every song is a 9-minute epic about having sex with a bat on top of a motorcycle or in an old car next to a lake. That guy has no connection with any of that music except for the sound of his voice. I'm not the music cops, but for me, that's a perfectly acceptable separation. You can enjoy a Bat Outta Hell guilt-free. You're not allowed to use this logic to listen to Screwdriver, but I don't know, City of Evil is harmless. The song MIA makes me a little uncomfortable, but dude, Sidewinder is about a snake or whatever, and I don't know, it just rips too much. It's a metal song that ends with a dueling flamenco guitar solo between a father and son. If you can't find joy in that, I don't know, man, you're just being mean to yourself. Oh boy, let's talk about this album art though. This looks like a PlayStation 1 game your stepdad would buy you for your birthday because he couldn't remember if you liked Crush Bandicoot or whatever it was called. Just write it down next time, Greg. Consarn it. This looks like the Denver airport inside of a snow globe. So let me get this straight. The skeleton is wearing a backless t-shirt so his wings don't get caught on the fabric. Why does a flying skeleton on a golden horse need a t-shirt? Why does a flying skeleton need a golden horse? Why does my mom's new husband not understand me? I like family fun games. This is too scary. What were the notes on this thing like? Yeah, we like it. Could we up the contrast, maybe boost the reds? Could we get more evil? Let's move the evil slider all the way to the right. Oh, I just noticed he's holding the horse by the hair. That's not cool, man. I don't know a lot about horses, but I don't think they deserve to go to hell. I know they're not baptized, but that's just like instant purgatory, right? Horse purgatory. I know they're bassist. Cool guy. This looks like a t-shirt you'd buy at an Arizona truck stop defending the right for skeletons to hold swords while riding horses. It's what the founding fathers stood for, gosh darn it! This looks like the Kids Bop version of an Iron Maiden album. And I told you, Greg, I wanted Somewhere in Time! You're not my real dad and you'll never be! Anyway, let's wrap this up. This episode has been long. I still love this album. It makes me want to go to a theme restaurant and get a tummy ache. Let me know how much you hate this album in the comments. I don't care. I have chosen to accept this Affliction t-shirt musical for what it is, and it has brought me a lot of laughs and joy. Next week, Drew and I are having a full in-depth discussion of Glass Casket, the Between the Buried and Me side project. It's gonna be fun.
It's 2 minutes to late night!